is Tuesday, August 2013. I am Cindy Kelly, Atomic Heritage Foundation, and with me is Denise Kiernan and Valerie Steele, and her mother, Kattie Strickland. We're so delighted to have you here today. Our first question for you is to say your name and spell it.
Oh, now? Oh, my name is Kattie Strickland. K-T-T-I-E-S-T-R-I-C-K-L-A-N-D.
Can you tell us what your birthday is and where you were born?
August the 21st, 1916.
And where were you born? And where were you born?
Let me see. Opelika, Alabama, in Macon.
Macon?
Macon County. All my brothers were born in Opelika, Alabama. And that's all my brothers were born, there. Then my sisters were born in the same place, Opelika. I'm the only one who was in Macon.
Mm-hmm. So were you the baby? Are you the youngest?
No?
I'm
the first, second, third daughter.
And how many children were there altogether?
My mama had 9. Let's see, four girls and 5 boys, and 9, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you would say the third daughter? Or the third, did you say?
Third daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
What did Papa do, Grandmama? What did Papa do? What kind of work did he do?
Oh, he farmed. Grow butter bean, peas, taters, and all that stuff. Because he farmed in a way, but he sure going to do that.
Did you help out on the farm?
Mm-hmm. Lord, yeah, I go to field and pick 400 pounds a day.
Of what, Grandmama?
Cotton. And I pick a bale of wheat by myself after all of them were married out.
That's a lot. Whoa.
It was.
So did you go to school? What kind of schooling did you have? Where did you go to school?
Opelika, Alabama, and I stayed between Tuskegee and Montgomery. And I didn't get no fun in the 7th.
7th?
Grade.
7th grade. So that would put you, let's see, in 7th grade you were it's probably like 1930. You finished school in 1930, thereabouts.
I didn't understand.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, you might have been 14 years old when you left school, when you finished the 7th grade?
14.
14, 15?
Because we would go to school 3 days and help in the farm 2 days a week. Didn't have no chance in school because I had to help farm.
So what did you do after you finished school?
Well, my daddy raised butter beans and peas and a lot of stuff like that, and I'm the one carried them down and so he raised lots of butter beans and peas and quotes, and the people in town, they put in the order how many that evening, so I know how many to bring that night. So many quarts of blackberries, and so many quarts of beans. Made good off it.
So you kind of managed things for your dad's farm. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We're approaching the Depression years. 1930 is when you left, and you're working all through the 30s, 1930s, on your dad's farm and helping to market the goods. What was that like? Did you have a hard time during the 1930s? There were a lot of areas of the country that were struck by drought, very little rain, and the economy was very poor.
Uh-huh.
What was it like for you?
When we left out the country, we moved to Opelika, Alabama. I mean Auburn, Alabama. Because we stayed between there and us moving to Icos. I worked at the main library for 8 years.
At the college, Grandma? In town or at the college?
It was, Auburn gotta have a college, It was Auburn, and I worked at the main library. I had to be there every morning, open up the door for the students.
So how did you like that?
Well, long then, my husband had come up here, and he would send me money back every week. And he said, take this money and buy the children winter shoes. And I be done picked enough cotton and bought all the children winter shoes and put some of them in the bank. My daddy said, oh, he's sending it to the hawk hanging because she ain't gonna throw it away. And he was sending it every week, and I leave the library across the street and I go there. She said, ain't got here yet. And I said, well, I'll be back after a while. She said, oh yeah, here it come now. She said, that your husband, a boyfriend or what? He sending this money every week to you. I said, that's my husband. Because we had.
So where was he working?
5 children then.
Yeah, you had 5 children, you say?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I see 4.
So your husband was here first?
Yeah, he come and stayed about a year before he come to Tennessee. And my uncle was in Georgia. And when I come home, he was there at my mama's house, and they come to carry me back, but had no back to mama to keep the children. She said, don't look at me. And my uncle said, now you just let that girl alone, let her go with her husband. And he called, I got to Tennessee. But she kept them.
She kept the children?
Mama kept them till us went got them.
Yeah.
Then my older daughter got old enough, she said, she really told Mom, I'm going to come where you at now. And I went and got them, because they didn't allow no children up here at a certain time, but they just had opened up for children that you could bring your children. And just went and got them, brought them up here to Oak Green. And I was working at the Cowboys cafeteria, and I couldn't eat that food. And we get free tickets, and I let him have them, and they would eat them. Godly, I couldn't eat. And I couldn't. I just went there to get our dinner that Sunday. And I said, I'm so hungry. I looked over there, that turkey, that leg looked like a turkey leg. I thought it was turkey drumstick. And I got home with it. He fixed my plate that tough. I couldn't stick my teeth in it. I thought it was. I said, this must be a buzzer thigh. And my husband said, put on and boil it. You make it soft enough. I said, no, I done boiled. I said, it got harder. And I hadn't eaten nothing else since. and it tore my bowel up. Oh, and so many were in the restroom. And my husband said, my wife eat something else up there and it made her sick. So you mind she coming in? He said, He was looking at my foot and I was looking at him. That bottom stayed. I had to go in the man's restroom. But my husband asked him, he said, yes, I eat the same thing that ain't on me here. And I ain't eat no more. And I was cooking on the stove. And I tell anybody that you can eat that food that they cook at the mess hall. I couldn't, but some of them loved it.
So you then started cooking for yourself?
Yeah, I started cooking on the stove.
Honest.
See, I make my biscuits and the stove get red hot. My husband made a little block thing. I can set the pan, turn it up to the stove, It browned the bottom. Then when the bottom brown, then I turn it over and let the top biscuit brown. Oh, it was really good, nice cooking on that. Cause a lot of them
didn't live together in the huts, right?
We both stayed in there. We had a vine that come down through like this, then a vine that go across. Them many can stand, two can stay on each side of their room, the man and the wife.
When you first came to Oak Ridge, you all couldn't live together. You and Granddaddy.
Brenda.
Granddaddy.
Oh, no, I stayed in the pen with the guards. I only made the big old place in the guards' house and all the our houses made around in there. And mine made right next to the guard's house. And my husband, he figured all the other women were going down. He was gonna crawl on top of the wire. They had the planks up so high that they put 2 strands of barbed wire up top. And he was up there. I had somebody beating the wall, and I went around there. He said, get me unhung. My shirt hung in the top of the thing. I said, what you doing out here? He said, the guard's going out hunt them good. Make easy, get me down before you come back. Lord, I laid there with Leah there, I cried. It didn't hang him in the bottom, it hung him, the top string hung him in the back of his shirt, and he couldn't get it loose. And he was way up there too. I just could touch his leg. And I said, I'm right next to the guard's house. He said, but I see them, they all going out to get them goods and come back. And I went out there and let them down. Oh, Lord. We had fun, though, but when you see nothing, hear nothing. That was the first thing you see when you go in that gate. And I finally got where I was in the Strickland part. I had 2 badges. If you didn't have that Strickland badge, you couldn't go in that apartment. And me and my friend had 100 restroom apiece. Go around to get back to the bin there. She go around this side, and I go around that side. And every now and then I call her, I wave at her at the window. She'll wave back. Got on down about 20-some restroom, and the water faucet the same. They had 100 bathrooms. A water fountain, and I had half, and she had half. Cause she go that way, and I went this way. And I said, God, Lee. I look across there at that bathroom, dog, ain't nobody in there. And I went on down. Didn't nobody work at night there but me and her. And every day it was did to the bathroom the same way. You clean them and didn't have but a few to clean, because a lot of them didn't go to the same restroom all the time. And let's just skip bathroom because we didn't have to clean. I had got so all I wanted to do hit the clock or get inside, and we would go to. I write my mom and them tell them. I tell them I'm riding the freight train. I tell them to ride the train every day to do it. And see that freight train will come down the track where he pick us up at. There's a long ton of us. Then when he load up, it's go back up the track about half a mile. Let that load off, come back and get more. And that was it.
Why don't you tell Cindy how you got your biscuit pan?
They were, probably them pipes of over us, and the cutting off piece of that tin, them pipes. And he looked down on it. He said, "Hey, you want another pan?" I said, "Yeah, make me another one." I had about 5 or 6 made, but I let that girl had one. I give her some, and she didn't bring it back. And I got the others at the house, but this my main one, the first one he ever made me. And I've been cooking on it ever since. About how many years? And now I cook biscuits in here. Boy, they brown so pretty. When I was at the building, my husband built a thing. I set it up to the stove. It'd be red hot. I set it up to the stove, not close to it, hot enough, and they're brown on the bottom. And I turned it around and facing it, and then brown the top one. Yes, sir. You make me a pan and holler at me all the time. "Hey, you want another pan?" I don't want none today, or I feel like food. And I strafe them and graze them, and then I go to cooking on them.
So how many thousands of biscuits were made on that pan?
Oh, goodness, I make them. I don't know how many. I don't know how many I made at the plant, and then I still make them now for at home.
So you still use the pan? Yeah.
And I said some of them wouldn't think about having to make no pan, And I had he made me a lot of pans. Make some about that deep, and make pan about that big around. But that's my. It's black, but it's really clean. Cause I tried to burn it, before I ever used it.
You're tearing K25 down, and you have a little piece of it right there.
I got 3 or 4 pieces at the house. She always tearing my building down. I worked there 8 years straight. 16 of us to it's like the share. And the building a little wider than this and go from one end to the other. And one girl, he let me and her sweep the floor if they throw the sawdust. And we had the wheelbarrow. We would sweep it up and sweep it down, sweep it up and sweep it down, then till it get like dry, and pick it up and put it on the wheelbarrow and go imp it. And then when it get to the end, go back the same way. Every 20 times a day. As long as was supposed to be on the job. And that concrete floor was clean as that glass up there when done work with it so much. you couldn't get a bit of dust off it. No way. And I said, Lord, how much they had the same day they gonna start the building off. And all of them was scared. Everybody, nurses, everything. And the big old tanks, she be on one side, there's two of us to the thing. But just talking and running with rags, had bushes of bale cotton or rag. And just rub that thing till he get them big tanks till he got this shining like looking glass. With no dust in that building nowhere for so long till we got, and they throwing that sawdust and killing that dust. It was just clean, it was shining like the glass, the floor. And so they had a certain time when they were going to turn it loose, turn it on, let it go. Everybody looking at one another when it just, and he said, when y'all hear this whistle blow, I'm hitting this button. And that thing, zoom, zoop, 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 zoop. And we were scared to death. Everybody was scared. And it went right. But boy, I want to go home and somebody said that big building, because big as it was, and they didn't know for sure that it would be all right. But it was. That when they started, that when they were building it, and that when they turned it on them big old wheels. And all them secretaries, they were scared. I said, don't look at me, I'm scared too. And boy, that thing was a sight. How hot.
Yeah.
It stayed Monday morning after it got turned on. But the thing is, everybody was scared, didn't know what was going to go wrong or go right, and have it went right. Oh, them big building, and the whole building went off, the same time. And they didn't know when the man would build, they didn't know why they were hoping that they would be right. And it was, and that thing scared me to death. If I could have checked out and went home, I would have, but he wouldn't let nobody go home. Because my girl was working in Lorraine. She said, they said, now the war is over. And they called on the loudspeaker, said, Miss Lorraine, I forget the last day name, your husband is at the gate. And boy, she told that broom round that to hit me with it to that gate she put. Then I went on behind him to the gate, and he was at the gate. They got out of it, that the war was over with.
Did you make more money in Oak Ridge than in Auburn?
I thought I was rich. All that money. And one time we paid $1.50 for a week for bed, rent, and get a change twice a week. And at the first time, we wasn't making that much money, but the more I ever seen had, because I didn't get to see that much in Alabama. My brother used to work at the library, and this Miss Moore, she was a white lady. She was crazy about my brother, and he had to go to Army. And because I wanted me to work in the library and in his place, when he left. And he worked at the library, and Miss Lady she was crazy about my brother. Up in that alley, all them lines of books. That's the dusty they could be. I said, Bill, you ain't done nothing. You didn't do nothing of that. She didn't, Miss Martin, she didn't care being then. She was crazy about being. And so, they had a meeting over, didn't want to pay me what they were paying him, because I was a woman. And Miss Martin, she went to that meeting, she got them told, 'cause they didn't mess with her. She told them, the place is cleaner than ever been. They tell me about you ain't got to pay her much as what you paying him. And so they paid me the same amount we paying Bill, 'cause they beat the head vote on it. Sure did. I worked at Jones a good while. I left Jones and went in Cowboy. I went to Chattanooga and stayed a week. And I come back, I met Mayana, and she had been to Mississippi, and 'cause she had lost her husband. And we come on back, and I stopped on the way. I said, I'm going there and see it, then start back to Hine when I left Chattanooga. And they stopped by there. Oh yeah, and they were hiring, or they hired us. They hired us. When they hire you, they pay you about for 2 weeks, and you ain't never started in. Or if you go to this lady and go to that and go to that, and it take about 2 weeks, and they pay you for the whole time you was in the library. I mean, I can't call it that. Only time you was hiring back in. Because I left John and come to Cowboy.
When you made your biscuits, where did you get the ingredients? Where did you go shopping for the flour and the butter? Where did you get it?
Oh, uptown, you know. I'm thinking I'm in Knoxville.
Jackson Square?
Jackson Square?
I'm thinking of in Jackson Square, and this man he had been there a long time before we were, and he said he was going home. He made a case, he made a freezer there. Well, we didn't have no freezer there. He made that freezer there, I don't know, about like there, from back there, about long in there. And he loomed it with that silver paper inside. And he couldn't leak where he had it. And he told Lee he was gonna leave and he could have it. And that thing would hold 2 watermelons, 2-3 cases of drink, about 4 cases of beer. 'Cause my husband sold it in a cigarette, $1 cigarette. And Happy Valley store right there. On Friday, they could buy all the beer they wanted. They'd like to come sit down and drink it, them and their girlfriend. Or they come in, give me 2 cigarettes. And I give him 2 and he give me $2. And just drinking beer and stuff and smoke cigarettes. And then he was lounging cigarettes and whatever that they were lounging. But anyway, when they lounged a cigarette, my husband smoked, and they would buy the cigarettes and let my husband have them because they didn't smoke. They lounged everything like that after one while. And so we did. But I thought that was just the worst place I ever come in my life. I went to crying when I got through Chattanooga. I said, I'm just leaving my children for going around them being and thing. And after I got here and got to working, I love that money then. But I was seeing mama money home every week.
But you missed your babies.
Uh-huh.
So how long was it before you were together? Before your children came
Well, I
here?
come up that way he was.
Yeah.
About a year.
A year?
Uh-huh.
Year after the war?
Huh?
About a year after the war?
Oh,
When did your kids get to come live with you?
I kept them. See, that was in the first, second, third grade. They stayed down there, I think, maybe about 3 years. So they didn't have to go too far to school.
Tell Cindy about the recreation hall near the huts. Is there a rec hall near the huts?
Yeah, we had one right there above from where the big kitchen was. And back then, there was so many people there, you couldn't stir them with a stick. Oh, the yard was full, your huts were full, cafeteria full, and it is full everywhere. And finally, the folk with the easing back going to Memphis and nothing. Cause about they come one time and worked a week, and they said, "Oh, I ain't used to this kind of work." I said, "What kind of work you do?" I said, "This ain't no work. This a plaything to me." And that next week, they finally wrote their red paper to terminate. And Mr. Mayor said, "Oh, y'all gonna terminate? Get to my left, and the mayor gonna stay. Get to the right." But about 19 of them went to the left because they want to go back. They had done made them a little money. They want to go back to Memphis. And he said, "It's hard work." I said, "Shoot, they nothing but a plaything to me." I said, what I had to do when I was at home, picking that cotton and chopping that cotton. I said, it's a plaything with me because they wasn't used to doing nothing like that. I don't know nothing about this work. And I mean, they left and went back.
Why don't you tell Cindy about going to church during the war?
Well, we had a church where we went to call it the house side the road. And it's on the thing, our church. And we worked with Reverend, what his name there? Reverend Sam. He worked with us. And the other church, Mount Zion, and but he worked with us, and he said, and we were teasing, we said, we're going to be with you in Giant Mount Zion. Oh, no, Lord, he wouldn't stand for that. And when it was made our church, I took and poured my husband, at least, poured my card in the church. They were getting a new church. And I was about the whole church, and me and my husband had to pay for it to for him to move it over to our section. And he moved it on, all the way on, and this guy worked at the plant. He know how to do things, and he got him to join it up and fix it back the right time. And then so now we got a pretty church.
Well, what did Granddaddy do when he came to Oak Ridge?
He was working on the railroad. My husband never liked to work inside, and that was just plain for him, the railroad, and he liked it. I used to go out there where they were, where they figured on. I said, "Y'all sing that song for me." Boys, can't you move it? Boys, can't you move it? And so Willie was he was getting paid for something he wasn't doing, you know. He had worked there I don't know how many years and didn't know that, you know, that jackhammer. He never did run a jackhammer, but he was getting paid for jackhammer. And he made good money though. That's about all. When I first got there, they said, see nothing, say nothing. You know, it was all right, because I did make more money than I did when I was in Alabama. But there's something else to see around there, I'm telling you.